All right, we're live again here with Bard Janssen, and he's got a interesting presentation for us, and we'll just get right into it.
Hi. I got a black screen there. Can everybody see the presentation? Hopefully, yes. Okay, great, because I can't see it. Well, I just wanted to, today I just wanted to talk about kind of my process behind my art and some of my art and my journey to doing crypto art, rare art, and just kind of why I'm an artist and why the things I enjoy about it so much. Let me get this started here. The first screen there, I have a royalties design that I made for a promotion. A group of us artists have been working on promoting royalties in the space by doing some press releases and some contact with Super Rare and Known Origin and the other marketplaces to promote the idea of royalties and higher royalties. So a big inspiration for me is Namjoon Pak, or Paik. And I was first introduced to his art at a resort that we went to. I saw this piece called Internet Dweller. You can hit the play button on that video, and it'll play through this is a video I took while I was there. And Namjoon Pak was one of the first video artists. He did a lot of very innovative video art. I'm sure you've probably heard of him. I'll let that play through a little bit. And I was inspired to, his art is very kind of made from repurposed things often, and it's very playful, and I found that very refreshing and convinced me that I could actually make art, because he took what he knew and he made art out of it. And in this case, it happened to be manipulating video signals. He trained to be a musician, well, wasn't very good at it. And he went on to, he had a vision of basically the internet. If you've heard of the electronic superhighway, it came from a paper he wrote. If you go to the next slide, he wrote a paper called Media Planning for the Post-Industrial Society, and added the humorous line, "The 21st century is now 26 years away." But this is something he wrote about a network of TVs connected on a network with input-output devices. And he proposed that the Rockefeller Foundation, who funded his paper, would start building this thing for artists. The link on that page goes to a paper that I dug up out of the archives because I was so interested in reading the paper. It was kind of how he predicted the internet in some ways, written in 1974. If you go to the next slide, and more of the paper, he talks about defining why artists should have a connected network to communicate over, which is kind of what we do today in this art fair. It's allowed us to connect all of the artists together to look at each other's work and broadcast it. So he thinks artists had an early warning system for anticipating change in the society. And artist is a transmedia manipulation in metaverbal languages. So if you go to the next slide, let me know if I'm going too fast for the slides here. So some of the things that I was inspired by Namjoon Pak and John Cage was the idea of play, and humor. He uses a lot of play. I think of art as play, and the idea of creation and how he would break things and take old thing. He took TVs and he dropped one and got a narrow band in the middle of it, so he called it Zen TV. So just the idea of mistakes. He was big on making mistakes and leaving errors in his work. He's from South Korea, so it's kind of an Asian concept of the idea of leaving a flaw in the art. And then just the idea of entropy and randomness, which I am partly a artificial intelligence artist, which uses entropy and randomness to create out of the randomness, create something beautiful to look at. If you go to the next screen, this is a little bit of how I became an artist, just kind of a timeline. Way back in high school, working on a computer, TI-99, doing pixel art and things. I got trained in computers, but enjoyed my literature and art classes more than the computers. But career in programming. And then in 2012, as I mentioned, I saw that piece of art called Internet Dweller, and made me think that Nam June Pak was saying that anyone can make art. So I started experimenting with technology to make art. If you scroll down through the next page, you can each click will take you to a new bullet point. You can just go through that quickly. I don't have control over the slide deck because of technical difficulties. I started experimenting with technology to make art. Is there someone talking? When I was trying to make an installation piece to print and read prayers, I came across Ethereum as a means of micropayment. And then I found Super Rare, and I found Ravi Bara at the same time, pretty much using his piece of software called Art DC GAN, which is an AI art software on GitHub. So I used his techniques to create some AI art and showed it to the folks at Super Rare, who were gracious enough to get me an account on there, and connected with Robbie Barrett, who liked my work, and they helped me get an invite. And then VK Crypto purchased one of my first works. And then soon after that, Hackataus Sergio invited me to his expedition and to put my art in his exhibition in Italy, which was a great thing for me, just to realize that another artist curated my work and enjoyed looking at it. And there's a great opportunity from him. If you go to the next slide, this kind of shows a progression of my art. This is a oscilloscope art piece. If you push the play button on it, it will play through. It's a oscilloscope animation. And let me see if somebody's still there. It's a Am I still? Looks like I'm still connected. So Battledore is just an example of some oscilloscope animation. So then I took that piece of art and used Robbie Barrett's system, Art DC GAN, to train it on 10,000 images of the oscilloscope art, and came up with this piece called Alien Intelligence on Super Rare. And this actually shows the progression of it learning. It's being trained, and see it starts out very pixelated and then gets better and better. So I thought of this as kind of an alien language of sorts. which fits into a story I started writing about. If you go to the next frame, there's a piece called The Holder Frame of North Bay, Canada. It kind of based on a short story I wrote about a computer that becomes conscious. In this computer is from 1959, called Sage. This piece of work was in last year's Rare Art Fair, so it was a great opportunity to be represented there. The next piece, next slide, biophonic phosphane. This is taking the AI art and the AI model and telling it to produce art that is bigger than it knows how to draw. It only knew how to draw 128 by 128 pixels, and I told it to draw something like 1,000 pixels by 1,000, and it came out with this work. Well, many pieces like this, I kind of have to curate through all the outputs because an AI can generate thousands of images. And this is one of my more popular pieces that I've sold on Super Rare. And the next slide, the Coin Air Art Drop, is something from last year's Rare Art Fair. And if you hit play on that, you can watch it. But this is a series of artificially generated coins, kind of playing with the idea of money and initial coin offering. People who bid on this work got a free coin. So anybody who bid on it, I sent them one of these coins for free with the transfer on Super Rare. And the person who finally bought the piece got a special coin where I hid art inside of it using steganography. So it's now in MoCA, the Museum of Crypto Art in Crypto Voxels. You can see the art and the art that was inside the other art. There's a way to decrypt the artwork, and there's another piece inside of it. Okay, the next slide is kind of showing how I took the original AI art from the oscilloscope, the Cosmic Neural Network. If you hit play on that, you can watch that. This one was shown, the Sage Anomaly Redux was shown at CADF Miami. And so I kind of collaged together a historical computer called the Sage computer with the AI art and merged it together. Okay, if that's played long enough, we can go to the next slide. This is called Artificial Intelligence Spawns. If you're on that slide, you can hit the play on that, but on that one. Now, this is one of my newest works that I haven't shown before. So this is kind of the premiere here at the Rare Art Fair. And this piece I built, I meant for the CADF Online 2020. I also sent it into the Hopper Prize just to see if I could get some kind of recognition for it. This is taking the previous AI work I did. I took the video from the Redux video in the last slide. I ran it through Pix2Pix, which does next frame prediction with machine learning. So it produced this blob looking thing that's spinning around and flying around this computer room. And I stuck it in a scene I got from the National Archives of a NASA computer called the CDC 3600. It was used back in 1969. And that video is like a minute long, and I'll let that play for a little bit. Can you, James?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me when you go to the
playing. Yeah, that one finished playing. I went to the next slide and started playing the next video.
Oh, great.
Sorry, he's delayed, but I'm trying to keep up. Sorry.
Yeah, this next one is a installation piece that I was supposed to be on exhibit, but got delayed by the COVID-19 shutdowns. It's playing in a room called Purple NL, purplenl.nl. It's very it's a 360-degree room, but this is some glitch art I made with VCRs, kind of moshing two signals together from maybe you can tell what movie it's from if you watch the whole thing. But so I first glitched it up with VCRs, and then I ran it all through AI model to do next frame prediction, and then produce this. It's kind of centered around the idea of racism and how it's called Welcome to Earth. There's a famous meme called Welcome to Earth. I wanted to kind of talk about how people of other races are not less intelligent than others, which is kind of what the Welcome to Earth meme implies. So this is kind of my take on that. Then the next slide is I'm grateful for my daughter. She's been involved in art. This is a collaboration piece that I made with her, Liza Grace. I put her Maker's Place account on the slide deck there. Fishing in the Ozark region, and she painted this on a old postcard, kind of talking about pollution and environmental conservation. That's just a short little clip video. And then we come back to Dreams of Internet Dweller 7. That's kind of full circle from my first slide about Namjoon Pak. This is a video of next frame prediction and my journey into finding art and creating art and being able to sell art on these new platforms, and kind of the idea of Namjoon Pak as being embodied in one of these robots he created, video robots, and his inspiration for the internet. He these artworks called Internet Dweller. There was 13 of them, and they were used in a art show in the 1994 that traveled around the United States, and was based on his paper that I showed earlier about predicting the internet. And he made sculptures of trying to make the internet physical. So this is just kind of the Internet Dweller is a Persian exploring the internet. And I left the sound. I don't know if you can hear the audio on that video, but that is just some background music while I recorded it, and my daughter in the background. And then on the next slide, just some inspiration, the people that inspire me. I'm grateful to my wife who gives me lots of feedback on what she likes and encourages the art that I make, and just a list of people that have inspired my art and helped me along the way. And some artists that I am inspired by, and people who write, authors, inspired a lot by literature. And then thanks to the curators of CADAF and IDAF and Rare Art Fair and all of you that have purchased my artwork. And the next slide is just a list of places where you can see our art. Super Rare Maker's Place, Known Origin. The last video, the Dreams of Internet Dweller, is on Maker's Place. I have like 4 or 5 different artificial intelligence videos out there that I consider some of my best work. And then the last slide is just some other pieces I just wanted to show people that I've sold. One is glitch scanography, where I use a broken scanner to scan my face. So that's a self-portrait. and then one called Ethangelist, kind of playing on crypto art and Ethereum, and a historical photo from my family history. So that is that was all my that was the end of my presentation. Let me see if you have any questions. The video I was showing was it wasn't Jurassic Park. It was Independence Day. What inspired you to do your amazing art? What a lot of what inspires me is just it kind of takes, there's kind of a flow to it when you get into making it. It takes my mind off all the other things in life, or stresses, or the 2016 election, or things like that. And then I like creating things and showing new things to other people. Let's see what else. Goals for the next year. I want to get the 360 room art exhibition on. Maybe it might not happen till next year, but I'd like to get that expedition going. And then I'm working on a collaboration. I'm trying to do some artificial intelligence, machine learning art with another artist that I'm working on. It's a big experiment, and not sure if it'll turn out or not, but Lawrence Lee, I'm seeing if I can make some art from in collaboration with him in running some AI models. And any other questions? Yeah, at the end of the video of the movie that I glitched and did machine learning on, Will Smith is smoking a cigar. So I don't know if it played long enough for you to see that.
Well, thank you so much, Bard. Apologies again, for the difficulties. Hopefully, I did it justice with my navigation of your epic presentation. So many awesome videos, and your artwork is just incredible. The technical approach and the visual outcome is really just amazing. So, apologies for not being able to let you pilot your own presentation here, but I think you've shown how flexible, understanding, and just chill. I'll say you've managed to pull it off anyway, and looking forward to seeing what you create next, and hopefully we can get that 360 room happening sooner rather than later.
Yep, it'll be great. One more question? I see there's one more question.
Yeah, we got a suspenseful question. I think it's in the ask a question.
Where do you see crypto art going in the next year? 5 years? I don't know. I kind of see it going more mainstream. I think there might be a convergence of traditional art in the next 5 years, linking kind of the digital twin sort of idea, or AR. I started working on some VR glitch art, so I think there's going to be a lot of VR, I think, and I think the traditional art market's going to catch up eventually and start using some of these techniques. I mean, they already use it to do provenance in some cases, so I think there's going to be a convergence. And bleeding over into other sectors, I see I see a lot of uses in people wanting to do provenance on other types of inventory and those type systems. Uh, I'm not sure how crypto art's going to deal with licensing schemes and royalties and how it's going to manage the idea of just managing the legal issues in trying to use crypto art on broadcast mediums or in other venues. Um, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Cool. Well, if you get a chance, definitely click that link shared above in the chat. We can share it after the festival or whenever you want to share it. It's got all the links to those videos, and I'm sure you can find them on the various platforms. Thanks again for rolling with it and
Sure.
making the best of this presentation. And yeah, really, really glad you were part of the festival.
Great. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was great. Didn't have to travel in New York either.
That's a perk of the virtual world.
And I left a link to my presentation at the top of the chat if anybody wants that.
Cool. I'm gonna save it and gonna try to round up all the presentations, and or at least the ones that people are willing to share, and share them once we have more time after the festival's over.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. All right. We're live here with Danny Chu from Maker's Place, who's got a brief presentation and is going to answer some questions for us, and got some exciting stuff happening in CryptoVoxels and other VR platforms, and tons of work being added to their platform every day. Take it away.
Cool. Thanks, James. It's like this weird feedback happening here. Let me see if I can turn this off. I can't talk with hearing my own feedback. Cool. Well, thanks everyone. So as James said, I'm Danny Chu. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO here at Maker's Place. Very excited to have the opportunity to talk to everyone today. We've been part of the Rare Digital Art Festival community for the last year or so, and just we really love the community, really love the opportunity to get together, especially once a year, to learn from one another and get to meet other folks in the industry, really trying to push this new movement forward. And so it's an honor to be able to talk with you all today. So just to kind of get things started, I thought I'd just share a bit about my background. Just always like to introduce myself before we jump into the AMA part of it. And I'll also talk a little bit about Maker's Place, because I'm sure there's a lot of people here who've never heard of us, and I thought I'd just share that as well. So my background real quick. I'm based here in San Francisco in the US, California. I've been out here for the last 13 or so years, and always kind of been in and out of tech. So before Maker's Place, I was an early employee at Pinterest, and that's sort of where the idea for Maker's Place came from. I spent a bunch of years working there, seeing firsthand sort of the odd disparity between the immense amount of digital creativity being put out by artists and just creators of all sort, and how little they're actually able to capture in terms of value. Seeing things like artists' works getting stolen, misappropriated, attribution getting lost. This is all common in the world of the digital landscape. More importantly, people just didn't make any money, and which is really upsetting when you think about how the future is digital. With the pandemic and everything, all of us are online, and it's no surprise, and we're spending more and more of our time online. And if you think about this future where we're spending more time online, it's sort of crazy that there isn't a proper economic exchange or an incentive or a platform for digital creativity to take off. And so that's really what we're trying to do here at Maker's Place. At the end of the day, we're, very specifically, I'll talk about what we're doing, but long term, this is what we believe in. We believe in creating this vibrant and this great future for digital creativity, because we believe the way that things have been in the past just is not going to facilitate this possibility. And so that's really where our mission comes from. So what are we actually? So Maker's Place, we like to see ourselves as a premier market for rare digital art. So everyone's already familiar with rare digital art, hopefully. And we're one of the marketplaces that helps artists create these rare digital artworks using blockchain technology, and allow people, collectors and enthusiasts, to be able to follow artists, to be able to purchase their works and support them. And so just an overview of some of the things that we offer. So we offer a platform for artists to mint their artworks as non-fungible tokens. We offer both a custody model as well as a non-custodial model. So this is actually a really important thing. We've helped a number of artists who have no idea how to use the blockchain get into blockchain and for the first time create rare digital art. And so that's a big part of it. We offer a custodial model so that we take all the complexity out of it. And then we have a non-custodial option where if you're a little bit more familiar with blockchain, you have your own wallet, you can bring that into our marketplace and our platform and create art as well. Second of all, as I mentioned, we're an open marketplace. And so we allow people to buy and sell on the primary market as well as our secondary market these rare digital artworks. And then finally, we offer a number of different fiat and crypto on-ramps. So a big part of what we try to do at Makerspace is we try to make this technology and this new art medium accessible to pretty much everybody. And we all know that blockchain is sort of at the earliest stages, and there's a lot of issues that hinder people from adopting blockchain. And so one of the things that we offer are these simple on-ramps. So fiat is something that we've supported for the longest time, and we're one of the few marketplaces that do support that. So finally, before we jump in, I thought I'd just share a bit about the platform, some stats, so that you all have some context. And so company was founded in 2018, and we officially launched the site actually right around Rare Digital Art Fest of last year. So we've been in operation for just about a year, our full-fledged marketplace and what the product that I just talked about. Since then, we've been able to onboard a little over 1,500 artists onto our platform, selling rare digital artworks and connecting through our community, and have facilitated a little over 29,000 unique artworks. And so just to get a sense of the scale that we're dealing with. And then finally, in terms of the other side of the marketplace, we've been really trying to ramp up the demand side and attract some of the awesome collectors to buy into rare digital art. So today we have about 500 collectors. Over the last year, we've done about 193,000 in volume. And obviously this is all public information that you can find on the blockchain. And we're happy to say that about a quarter of our artists have made sales. And so a lot of the volume has flowed back to a large percentage of our community. And so, yeah, so I'll kind of leave it at that. And I will jump into the AMA portion of the conversation. So let's see.
We've got a few questions already. One is,
sure.
What excites you most about the industry?
Oh, that's a lot.
It's a big one.
Lot to answer. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna have to turn off my volume again because I can't stand my voice. So what excites me most about the industry, rare digital art? So on top of the things I just talked about, I think, honestly, I think the big thing that excites me is the amount of creativity. And I'm sort of privy to that firsthand. When we first started Makerspace, and nobody really understood rare digital art, and there's only a handful of artists creating. You kind of saw the early adopters. They're creating amazing art, but they're creating in the format of what they're used to, the physical world, because there wasn't a lot of incentive to create uniquely digital artworks. And so what happens when you're able to grow an ecosystem and grow that two-sided marketplace is it becomes this virtuous cycle that allows innovation to happen. And I think that's one of the most important things and exciting things that I've seen firsthand. As we've been able to grow the platform, as we've been able to engage with more artists, as the number of collectors have been growing in the industry, the amount of creativity and innovation from the types of artworks to the styles, the different forms, has just gone through the roof. And every week, I'm just blown away by the creativity of the artist community. Whether it's, I'm just kind of throwing out an example. Like one artist joined our platform a month ago and had this idea of just uploading scenes within his video game, his VR video game that he's creating. And I thought that was like fascinating because all of a sudden the rare digital art is acting as a funding mechanism for his game, but at the same time the actual artworks in the game are in and of itself amazing to just own and collect and experience. And so like this sort of innovation has been really exciting for me. I think that's the thing that kind of stands out across everything right now.
Cool. Next question is just generally, what inspired you to start Maker's Place?
Yeah. So I think my biggest inspiration came from, I guess, a number of different places. I've been always a creative individual all my life. Since I was pretty young, I studied classically trained piano, and spent a good part of my childhood just in the music world, and spending time in that, just being just generally creative. Unfortunately, I didn't really see a direct path, and sort of growing up in an Asian upbringing, I was kind of forced to find a bit more of a more lucrative path, and so I kind of went into the tech side of things. But I've always been very passionate about creativity and things, and so that's always been a part of me. The main inspiration came from this realization that, I spend a ton of time consuming digital media and creativity, whether it's something as simple as some like really funny YouTube videos that I see, or it's the music like that I listen to on Spotify or whatnot, to the art that I browse on Pinterest or Instagram and whatnot. I consume a ton, and if you kind of take a step back, you realize how much you're taking for granted. I think everybody's taking the amount of creativity put out there for granted, and you don't really think about what went into it, and the amount of effort and time from the creative individual, the artist. It's not being accounted for, and that's something that really became apparent to me, having worked in a company that was proliferating this. Whether or not that was their intention or not, they're creating a platform where people can just discover all this creativity without giving a ton back. And so that's really where the inspiration came from. It's this realization that if we want to have a future of, where, first of all, the future is digital. I think no one can deny that, especially in a time like what we're seeing right now. And if we want that creativity to continue over the next 5, 10, 50 years, whatever it is, there needs to be something more. And I think that was just the moment that clicked for me and my founding team. And we decided, hey, we got to do something better. And, luckily through our experience and seeing how this sort of played out historically, we were able to, jump on this idea of rare digital art. And, that's where we are today.
Awesome. Next question is, any chance you will raise artists' royalties to 10% like some of the other crypto art platforms did?
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched our secondary market last, I guess, 2 months ago, right before the pandemic, and we launched at 5%. I think part of it was we were trying to just, first of all, we believe in the notion of artist royalties. I think it's extremely important, especially when you think about how much the secondary market drives the art industry and how little the original artists are getting. And so we absolutely believe in royalties, hands down. And so we invested in launching our secondary market and getting royalties out there. And we wanted to just see, how the market's going to react. And we also wanted to get feedback from our community, and that's just how we operate here at Maker's Place. So since then, we've definitely seen some of our peers move towards a 10% model, and I think that's important. I think we definitely want to, follow suit. But more importantly, we want to do what's right. And I think we took some time. We talked to our community. We talked to the collectors, got some feedback from them, and just sort of start to also obviously talk to the artists, and the artists are definitely passionate about royalties. And so absolutely, I think we are in the midst right now of updating our smart contracts. We have some mechanisms in place that make sure that it takes some time to make these changes, and so they're in the works to up our artist royalties to 10%. So that's where we're ending up. And we're going to have a lot more information to share in the coming weeks when we're able to get that rolled out. So very excited about that.
Sounds great. I'm just following up on that question based on a comment in the chat. Could you make it so creators control the royalty percentage themselves, or is that something you don't feel is the right way to do it?
Yeah.
Does that make
It's an interesting idea. I think we haven't thought deeply about that control mechanism yet. I think it does take a little bit more effort to build in something like that and make sure it's done right. And so I'm not adverse to the idea at all. I just think we haven't really explored it enough. I think there's some complexity that goes into controlling it, and like short-term and long-term complexity and ramifications that you're not quite aware of. And so like if you're an artist and you kind of have this system that allows you to do anything, you can sort of shoot yourself in the foot and say, okay, well, my art piece is going to be 50% of the future sales is going to come back to me. Like you don't know what that's going to entail in the future. And so there's sort of questions like that we have to just be mindful of, because we are a platform, and we do want to make decisions and implement features that are widely supported by our community. And so, yeah, that's something that we just have to think about. But it's a neat idea, and I think we've heard it. So we'll just have to think about it more and see.
Makes sense. What are the biggest issues that you see in the rare digital art space?
So, biggest issues. I think that there's I guess you can kind of think about it from a number of different angles. I think that one of the things that we think about a lot in the rare digital art space is just the adoption of rare digital art. And why this is important is it goes back to sort of what I talked about. In order for this ecosystem and this new medium to thrive, there has to be this like constant balance between the amazing creativity with a market that's going to facilitate that creativity to flow back and to create this beautiful virtuous cycle that creates amazing art and facilitates that ecosystem. I think that it's a little bit one-sided right now, but it's changing. So early on when we started, obviously there was a lot of technical overhead, and we worked to get artists onboarded and create that an opportunity for artists to create. And I think that there was that we had to overcome, and I think we're getting to a really great place today. But then on the flip side, when you, especially us, when we go and talk to just friends, regular people on the street, or just general people that show up to our website, they're still not entirely sure like what are the use cases for rare digital art, and that's changing. As you can kind of see, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of collectors now in the space, and that's growing. But if you really want this to kind of take off and get to that point where it could rival the traditional art world and completely disrupt and do what we hope to do, there needs to be something. There needs to be more. I think that's something that we're constantly struggling with. I think that we're definitely excited about a few things that have propelled the industry forward, but there's more. I think just the fact that when you just talk to anyone that's not familiar with blockchain technology about a rare digital art, there's this like huge cognitive barrier. You have to educate them. You have to give them use cases. I think there are solutions that we have. We're thinking through and we're planning to roll out. So there's some exciting stuff that we're trying to test out in the coming months. But I think the biggest thing there is use cases. Like what's gonna excite someone like our parents, best friend, or whatnot, who have no idea about NFTs or crypto to collect rare digital art. I think that's one of the biggest barriers right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And next question is, do you see a place for 3D art assets being sold on these marketplaces?
3D assets. And so, I mean, there's definitely 3D art. I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah, I guess just
maybe the question is like, is there a opportunity to sell like 3D components, things that you can use within like 3D models and things like that. I think that it's interesting. Right now, I think this is always the balance that you have to strike when you're working in this in an early area. You have to sort of focus so that people can learn what you're trying to offer before venturing up too far. Then it becomes it's just super confusing. And so today we're sort of really focusing on what we call like showcase art, like art that you can really appreciate just on a computer screen or on a monitor or whatnot, and just sit back and enjoy. Like that's the sort of the specific use case that we're trying to promote, because we think that it's synonymous to what we're used to with traditional art. You buy a piece that connects with you emotionally, personally, and you sit there and you enjoy it. That's sort of what we're trying to focus on right now, to really drive this movement forward. But yeah, I mean, I think eventually assets could be really interesting. Commission works, and being able to just sell any digital thing. There are solutions for that today. You can kind of look at some existing solutions. I think like there's like Gumroad and other things that allow people to transact these 3D assets. So it's a bit of a different problem. I think we're trying to tackle, like the opportunity that we're trying to tackle is just changing how people value art from an appreciative perspective. And so that's where we're trying to focus our time, as opposed to like the pure utility of using a digital asset. And so it's just what we're focusing on this point, because there's a huge need there right now.
Cool. Another potentially tough one, but what are some important factors that artists should consider to be more successful in selling their art?
Let's see. It's a loaded question there. So one thing that we really try to promote is, and this is one that I think scares artists quite a bit, and sometimes it could be sort of taken the wrong way. I think really marketing your work is something that we try to educate artists on. The art world is it's fascinating. It's so hard to, especially in this new medium where it's like there isn't the establishment that defines what is good digital art. Like if you kind of look at the fine art world, like all the sort of like so the underhanded dealings and things like that, and like there's like a formula. Like people in the fine art world have sort of figured out like what is good art, and people can establish like the variables that play into that. And rare digital art being so early, that hasn't been really figured out. And I think that's sort of beautiful at this point, is that it feels more democratic and it's more emotional. And so I think like if I were to think about it from that perspective, it's sort of it's an open season at this point. If you're an artist and you're able to create something that simply connects with the collector, I think like that's all you need to do. But that is a really hard problem to solve. Like, how do you figure out how to connect with your audience? And on top of that, your audience may be limited today because, as I said, the number of collectors that are understanding of this sort of new medium is limited. And so that all being said, you have this really great opportunity, democratic system to get your art in front of people that are actually passionate about what you're creating, but then you got to get it out there. And so, marketing is sort of an important factor there. Like, you're spending so much time creating, but at the same time, you do need to figure out how to get your art in front of the right people, the right fans. How do you tell the story so that if someone connects, if someone were to build a connection with your piece, you're able to communicate that. And so, that's something that we encourage and try to help with quite a bit here at Maker's Place. Is we try to periodically help artists promote their works through our platform. But obviously, we can't do that with everybody. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate people, our community members, to go and build a profile on Twitter, talk about your art, share it. Every time your artwork, you have a new artwork to introduce to the world, like tease it and get it in front of people. And I think like the artists that have succeeded at this early stage, at least, I think have kind of been really great at that. They've been able to market their works. They just talk about their pieces. They're able to communicate, and that's an important step to connect with your audience. And I think that's probably the biggest tip that I can share at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to think about what a collector wants if you're an artist sometimes, but it's part of the game, I guess. And
yeah,
we have a few more questions. I don't know how much time we have. I know you wanted to share a little bit more about some announcements, but the next question is about expanding into international markets. I'll just ask if you see potential in other parts of the world that you haven't reached yet, or like how are you thinking about reaching international markets, especially like in Asia or other places where there's like a big opportunity, with a lot of collectors and artists.
So the good news is that we haven't done, well, bad news is we haven't done a great job. A good news is that even though we haven't done a great job in reaching out internationally, we've been international since day one. I'd say close to 35, more than a third of our community is based outside of North America, English-speaking part of North America, and I think that's just the nature of the movement. It's a worldwide movement. It's digital, it's virtual, and so there's nothing. I guess what I'm saying is we need to do more to localize and internationalize our experience. That's something that we're going to be focusing on probably closer to the end of this year to facilitate that. But nothing's stopping an artist. We have artists in Asia, Europe, different parts of the world, Africa, that are just jumping onto this new platform and just connecting with people through their art. Like this, yeah, you have to be able to describe your artwork sometimes, but being able to connect with a collector through your art, it transcends boundaries, verbal boundaries, and so in communication boundaries. So we're seeing it going international already, and so I think to answer the question, yeah, like we're gonna work on making it more accessible. So translations, internationalization, and things like that. But it's already a global movement.
Cool. Well, I think that's probably all the time we have for questions. Just going back to the royalties thing, Bard mentioned that you should go to 11% and beat the rest of them. But yeah, that could be fun to have a little royalty war or something like that. But thank you so much for doing that. Great answers, very thoughtful, and considering all the different perspectives, it's really appreciated. If you want to share your screen and go through the rest of your presentation, we have a little bit more time before the next talk. But
awesome.
I don't know. Yeah.
So let's see. This feedback is killing me. Okay, so let's see. I present. Sorry, James. I forget how to present. Oh, here it is. Okay. Got it. Cool. So I just wanted to quickly share. So we've been big fans of CryptoVoxels and VR, and we've been excited to kind of share and hold different galleries and exhibits. And so today we're very excited to announce our newest exhibit. We're calling it the Prelude, and we're hosting it at the 1BC Gallery in CryptoVoxels. Pretty stunning space. I would say definitely check it out. This is a phenomenal build on CryptoVoxels. It really shows the the future of the platform. But we're also showcasing some of the pioneering artists and collectors. As I thought it was a perfect opportunity with Rare Digital Art Fest, because it's always that 1 year opportunity to kind of reflect. And this year we're reflecting on the past year as being a foundational year. And it's just the beginning. It's the prelude to the future of this movement. And we're happy to showcase a number of artists from our platform, as well as the popular collectors. And it's just, I think it's a beautiful gallery, and I really encourage everyone to check it out. You can just go to this link, bit.ly/theprelude2020, and it'll land you in the gallery, and should be pretty simple to get to. On top of that, we also have a special scavenger hunt. And so we have 3 art pieces that we're going to be giving away. If you, again, go to the new exhibit, the instructions will be provided there. But yeah, if you, for winners of the scavenger hunt, you have an opportunity to win one of these one-of-a-kind artworks by some of our prominent artists. So Daniel Ignacio, Debbie Hong, and Kriko. Really shout out to them for offering these pieces to give away. And this is up for grabs if you have some time to go through the scavenger hunt today. So again, bit.ly/theprelude2020. And then finally, to end it off, really special piece that was just released today by a pretty awesome artist, Javier Arez. I mean, this particular artist, his works are extremely detailed. His animations are just out of this world, and it's sort of in line with the whole rare digital art movement and the excitement around crypto. And so I encourage everyone to check this out. This is on display at the exhibit as well. But if you want to go directly to the art piece, you can just go to bit.ly/visual toy. This is what Javier does. He creates these visual experiences and toys out of his animated works. And so this piece is going to be, it's out for auction starting today. And yeah, we encourage you to check it out. And then finally, if you want to follow us or join our communities, we're on Discord, Twitter, primarily. We're also on Instagram. And so please check us out. So that's just bit.ly/MKP Discord, or follow us on Twitter at Makers Place Co. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Danny. That was really great. And I shared the links in the chat. Really excited about the scavenger hunt and that auction. Super cool. Thanks for making it part of the festival.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks.
All right. We are live here with Jin from Nifty's, and he's got an amazing presentation lined up, followed by our after party. And I'll let him take it away.
Hey, so I've been working on some ideas on how to build a virtual rare art festival that I'd like to share with everyone. And so let me play the video so we can kind of get started on here. Okay, so we basically start out 1 month ago. Burning Man announces that they're canceled, and for the first time ever, and the theme is the multiverse. So now that the pandemic has affected Burning Man and Black Rock City, well, I've never been, but I really like the idea. So they had this type form on building a virtual metropolis, and it is kind of like this concept of like a virtual art gallery in itself that is followed up by a build-a-thon in the initial phase. So, and there have been some events for creating like a VR burn. I went to this one in Wave XR, and they had a lineup of DJs. And Wave is it's an all right platform. It's basically live music and VJing in VR. This world was in particularly really cool because they took a photogrammetry scan and they had audio reactive kind of tilt brush drawings overlaid in there. So that was definitely my favorite. Some good inspiration at that. And then there's VR chat. And VR chat, just by virtue of its awesome avatar support, it kind of already is like that Burning Man vibe of like having the internet in a desert. And so those two things have been really inspiring. And in my lab, I've been working on all sorts of interoperability projects. And, because when it comes to creating this kind of virtual art festival or creating like, Black Rock City, people build a whole city in a span of a week. And the only thing I've seen comparatively is like crypto voxels, where I'll just kind of go in here and play this video. All right. So in crypto voxels, each person like has their parcel in which they have an easy editor to build. And this is a really great way of distributing the work, because 3D modeling is hard. And so building like a virtual festival, an actual one that's like in 3D, you have avatars and all that, CryptoVoxels really lowered the barrier to entry for creating content. It's not the only platform out there. In here, like I've got all sorts of experiments on essentially 3D content pipelines and workflows so that people working on different platforms, whether it's Decentraland or CryptoVoxels or Blender or Tiltbrush, whichever it is, we can collaborate together and move assets from one to the other and onto some neutral infrastructure. And so, like, we use the desert as basically that sandbox, literally, for all these other things to be on. And I'll just keep playing the video. So we can start out with that ingredient. We have our parcels. We already built them. And we can even import the avatars as well, as you see over here. And this is a great start for like a camp for, us to have presence in here, because it's not just our community. I want it to extend to other communities. And so we import into Unity and we have full God mode control over the whole city. So we can start out there and then theme it. And one of the things that I started to do, like, because CryptoVoxels and Decentraland, I think we could work together to become something greater than the sum of our parts, because in the grand scheme of things, blockchain-based virtual worlds are still really small. And this is a way of bringing our world and exposing a whole new audience to them by bringing it inside of other platforms such as VRChat, Neos VR, and others that have really large user bases, like millions of avatars, hundreds of thousands of worlds. So I started on this project last year, right during the last Burning Man, and I built this as a fun experiment of putting photogrammetry and a little bit of crypto voxels and just different worlds together, basically kind of like a map. And the map is a portal hub into other virtual worlds, kind of like as a landmark. So this right here is another 3D website. What I'm going through right now is a portal. It's invisible, but as soon as I go into that door, it's going to take me into the next website. And we could have all sorts of experiences in this multiverse playa, because some people, their artworks are like a whole world. So we could use this as basically a way to navigate between all of them and discover a whole bunch of really cool experiences that people are making. Next question, though. How do we make a really cool night mode? Because when it comes to the experience, the whole playa turns into this kind of neon city. And I did an experiment back in the day where I took a 3D scan of a skyline, and I had large kind of projection mapping on there. So that would be really cool for doing a music concert. We could have a giant hologram, kind of how Travis Scott in Fortnite. And we can also decorate our avatars for night mode as well. And Tiltbrush has this really cool thing where you can draw and it anchors to the avatar. And I think this would be really cool if we wanted to decorate a version of our avatars to have that slight emissiveness, how they use the neon light L-wire. Okay, so I'm getting to the part where we're showing off the Unity example. So we set this fly up. Is nowhere near the final piece. We're just moving in, and people do literally move in for a week into the city. So we're just kind of carving out space here. If you had some crypto art you wanted to display, we could provide these easels, and many of the assets that you see on this playa are open source. So they're all on a GitHub repo. And we can use templates, for example, if someone doesn't have the time to custom make a booth, but this guy did, either you could commission one from him, or we could provide a template and take logos, and if you want to sponsor, we can totally brand a booth or something even bigger, in the skyline, something like a giant sign or floating blimps. I mean, we should not limit ourselves to what's possible in reality. Maybe we should think about what's only possible in virtual reality when we design this internet city. So I just kind of got started on the core camp here, and I'm working on a daytime version of it. So kind of working backwards from night to day. And let's see. And here's my idea for distributing work so that we can make this experience really awesome and get a bunch of artists to exhibit or just kind of to show off their art in a new way. So we have this pipeline from crypto voxels into Blender and Unity. This is Godfrey Meyer's art gallery in Makers District. We can take that art gallery and we can export it as an OBJ. Well, we have to export it out of Unity as FBX and then convert it to OBJ. But after that, we can import it into Tiltbrush. And then once it's in tilt brush, we can start drawing over it. And this is just a test experiment, but it serves as basically a way to trace over the exact dimensions of your gallery to augment it with neon or signs. Like if you want to draw a giant billboard, or going back to how do we make a really cool night mode? Tilt brush. We just bring our CryptoVoxels parcels into there and we trace over them. And then we export the neon out of that. And that way we can have a really cool night mode in which the whole origin city lights up. And so I think this would be really cool and awesome if we could have a build-a-thon with virtual reality art and traditional crypto arts, and do it on platforms where maybe people haven't heard of crypto art before. And that's why I really like VRChat, because it's such a huge community, tons of subcultures. And one of the most recent events was Virtual Market. We're right here, like in the first Virtual Market event. And it was just a group of friends. They made one world with 77 booths, and they just wanted to do it to make an expo. And each of these booths is something that an individual has created and is exhibiting avatars or avatar accessories, any number of things. But I think it's a really great model, like kind of like how Decentraland, CryptoVoxel, Somnium Space, they distribute the work in these parcels. In the context of making a festival, we are kind of doing the same, but instead of building parcels from scratch, why not just use the ones that we already have and restructure it in a whole new context? And so, yeah, we took some trips through the past exhibits of Virtual Market, and this is another cool thing about doing this. And I don't really want to do a literal Burning Man, because I've kind of feel like a poser because I've never been, and I just think it's a really cool concept, of making a virtual reality art festival. And it's always been a blend of technology and art out there. And it could be a really cool way of finding ways to gift NFTs, because they have this whole gifting culture there. But what's cool about Virtual Market is that you can always revisit the expos after the event ends. So this is the newest one that we were at. But this is the first one that happened 2 years ago, and we can still go back. Like any kind of typical expo or conference, they're built and then they're torn down, and then all you have are pictures and memories, and the conversations that you pick up afterwards are on a blank slate. You're emailing or discording, and without all the sensory information that in terms of the original meeting place. It'd be so cool if we could actually teleport back there. And that's all possible because once we make the world, it's always there. So we took some trips through Virtual Market 4 recently, and so it's grown from where you saw 77 in one world to 1,400 in 43 worlds. So 1,400 booths. And yeah, so if you're collaborating with other people in your district, something that we could do is basically export a mesh of just your district, or just kind of segregate it out, separate all the work involved in producing a large-scale virtual art festival by parcels or districts. I think CryptoVoxels has a nice mold to it, because we already know how to build in there, and we have this pipeline into other development environments that we could just start using it in this new context and however we want to imagine it. and then we can port that into other platforms with a whole new spin on it. So maybe for a couple of months, there could be a build-a-thon for the best exhibit, and people can make templates, Vox templates in Magica Vox or whatever, for a booth or a stand or an art easel, for instance. And we can decorate and theme the city however we want, with some really cool lights and fireworks, and attract a lot of new people to this awesome movement of, from other places, people who are interested in virtual worlds but haven't heard of blockchain and crypto. And I think art is a really great way of introducing it, and it's just super accessible, and it makes sense like what the use case is. And when I explain these concepts to people, but I have to ask them, like, try out this world, and everyone, they have their kind of favorite platforms already. And whoops. Let me see if let me try launching this from a different URL. Here we go. So I'll show you what this camp looks like right now. But my goal is to not just build it by myself, but to build it with other people. And so many of these experiments is how the content that we can build can carry over into other places. And I think that really kind of sends the message across, how NFTs are interoperable. And art really is at the spear tip of that, because artists want to have ways to exhibit and share their art and attract new collectors. And so, like, for example, Decentraland just added GIF support to their platform, because a lot of crypto artists have been asking for that. And in terms of like interoperable NFTs, crypto art has been in Somnium Space and Decentraland and Crypto Voxels and in all these other platforms already. And there's so much happening in terms of interoperability starting with art. So I think by doing a virtual art festival in this way, like a large scale, like how Burning Man, it has sculptures as well, we could not only show some cool art, expose new audiences, but also have room for those large scale art exhibits, like however scale an artist wants to show off their art, we can do that. We have plenty of space in the desert. Whoops, hold on one sec. All right, so here's the current desert that we have. If you're an artist or if you're a marketplace, you could have presence in here however you want to imagine it. This is my friend's booth. We just gave him a template, and he was able to decorate it in an afternoon, mad easy. And then from these booths, eventually they can be like a seed, and in a next iteration at the next virtual art festival, it could be a camp. But for now, we're just starting small with these parcels and just kind of moving into the virtual world in the process. And I want to have a lot more NFT projects in here. And there's a huge community in platforms like VRChat, but we could have concerts as well, like different ways of participation, not just like art, but oh, and I've got a third-party mode. 1 second. And check this out. It even come with fireworks as well. Have you ever seen crypto voxels at night? Because it would look really cool if we had fireworks and neon lights and art decorating the streets. Maybe if we plan this in the fall, it can also have like Halloween decorations and pumpkins and things that wouldn't be possible right now in the web client. But we can build it in the web client. I want it to be, the theme of Burning Man is multiverse, so it should be cross-platform anyways. We can have it in cryptovoxels.com. We can have it in VRChat, in Neos, as long as we're using these assets that are based on open standards. It can easily transfer from one to the next, thus proving out the interoperability aspect of NFTs. And exposing new audiences to the crypto art and Nifty's world, and having a world that this community can all meet up in virtual reality, not just, because right now we have like crypto voxels and Somnium Space and Decentraland. There's plenty of space here. This is a neutral infrastructure provider. It's free to upload land here, content here. So I think VRChat, personally, I really like it the most out of the other virtual reality social VR platforms, just because it has so much avatar-like freedom. But it's neutral, demilitarized zone, and so we could have peace amongst crypto voxels and Decentraland and Super Rare and Maker's Place and all these artists. It's all about the art in the end. And pretty soon we'll also have the capability to do AR and VR too. So like Josie's piece over here, we could have a overlay, a kind of a web app to see, instead, because we can't just download an app and point our smartphones while we're in virtual reality. That can't work. But people are working on ways where they can scan QR codes inside VR. So you don't need your smartphone to scan a QR code. This gets into a whole nother topic, but some of the people that are exhibiting here are building this whole new layer that connects everything and allows you to do things like send transactions or NFTs in the virtual world without having to necessarily install a program to do so. So yeah, let me see am I doing good on time? Let me check. Yeah, it seems like I'm doing good. Okay, so we'll go back to here. So yeah, if interested in building a virtual art festival that is interoperable with all the platforms, just let's get in touch. VR@nifties.com is the email. I'll just write it out here. Yeah. And yeah, let's make something really cool together. And that's the end of my presentation. How do I end this stream? Let's see. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, let me know. You can probably know, I'm in Discord a lot as well, so you can reach out to me there. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. I want to take all the amazing things that everyone has built, whether it's arts or 3D. And let's see. So one question is, how do artists get in on creating installations for this? So you have multiple options. If you've made art, so we're going to have to create a pipeline. If you want to submit arts and it's on OpenSea, you can send links to that. If you want a booth, we can either provide a template if you have 3D skills to design your own, or we can hook you up with someone to build one with you as a service. If you build something in a platform like CryptoVoxels, Decentraland, Somnium Space, we can lobby the platform developers to create mesh exports so that you can have an offline copy of the things that you built on that platform to use on the neutral infrastructure. The next M3 meetup, it is, I'm not sure when. Those things are volunteer-based. Technical requirements to decorate these booths. Is it all browser-based? Well, if you made a CryptoVoxels parcel, we can easily bring the base model and export that, and then you can start drawing over it in Tilt Brush. But I think we'll just start out with a onboarding document on how to get involved in building this world out. I think that would be best. Any other questions? Cool.
Okay, I think My computer is working again. That was amazing. I don't know what else to say. Jen already dropped the mic. It's time for the after party.